Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers. Yeah, right there, who have been with us since day one. And we thank you, Folgers. The journey would simply not be the same without you guys. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker, a.k.a. the Sonic Surgeon, who's an award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on any available platform, such as Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, you name it, it's there. Tonight, we're going to be, as you can see, we're going to be broadcasting with Joe Montaldo. Yes. And we're going to be talking about the congressional hearing on UFOs that went on this week. There's a little bit of change of plans for tonight, but we definitely wanted to cover this because it's going to be sort of like a prequel to what we're going to tackle on the Gray Zone this week in much more detail, because as promised in the Gray Zone, we said when this happened, we would recoup the information, we would talk about it, and we do stay true to our word. So we are going to discuss that in a whole lot of detail. Because I think we did literally like 8 segments on the preliminary stuff. We couldn't believe the amount of people. So it was really good. So Zachman, hello. Wayne, hello. Ooh, says hello, everyone. And Joe, you handsome devil. Something else I need to be thinking about over here. So, who am I living with? Zachman, Amelia, Tamara, Michelle Millens. Hey. So,
those good-looking guys got to stick together, man. That's just how that works.
Oh, I see. Well, I don't know, because I'm just not even like looking at you right now. I'm just looking at like the Outer Realm.
Because I can't. Last time I turned the camera on, it was like meltdown, man. We can't be having that.
Okay.
People throwing panties at you and stuff. Look, this is a G-rated show, man. Well, our
family show.
It's R, at least R-rated, but as long as we're not on FM, we're R-rated. How better? But
yeah,
FM, we're PG-17.
Well, I think it's okay, considering when we were playing around with the show earlier. Somebody F-bombed on air.
Oh, no. Well, I got to go delete all of that. I was going to delete. Well, first, I'm amazed you two didn't get upset that I was playing
I'm just saying,
stuff.
It was not this good.
It was, but I gotta
I'm the good kid between the two of us.
Yeah, you believe that. I'm just more outgoing about my badness.
I'm not saying that it can't be a role reversal. I'm saying on average.
I'm just more outgoing about my badness. It's hard for me to keep it restrained. If I restrain it too much, I get all cranky and bitchy and moany.
No, I don't believe it.
Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that kind of stuff.
I don't believe it.
Especially my radio show hosts who like to make me drink, which I don't do that. But still, they'd like to make me drink.
Yeah.
We're not naming any names. It's like a Jeopardy scene or something. Yes, hold on. Okay, look, here we go again. Wait, you know what? Before we even get started, let me move this over here.
So basically, this past week on Tuesday, I believe, a House Intelligence Subcommittee held the very first congressional hearings on UFOs in more than 50 freaking years. That's crazy. And the testimony was heard under the Secretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, Ronald Moultrie, and Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence, Scott Bray, as they were overseeing the Pentagon's new task force we have to talk about as well, which are now being called Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. And they have a task force. But apparently, but a lot of places have a task force. I shouldn't say that. A lot of countries they do have some kind of an organization. The United States has had many, Blue Book being one of them, and there's different little pockets. I guess this is the latest pocket.
Project Signs, Project Grudge.
Right.
Project Blue Book was the last one. It was Project Signs.
Yeah.
It was Grudge, Signs, and Blue Book, or Signs, Grudge, and Blue Book. Anyway, it was the three of them.
Yeah.
And they all did not disprove UFOs, or I should say extraterrestrials. Because UFO just means unidentified flying object. That's why they
Coming to
changed it
get
to
you.
yeah.
I hear a siren. Is that
Oh,
you?
yeah.
Uh-oh.
No.
Uh-oh.
They stay away from me. They know they got me.
If you drop off, we know what happened.
This is one of these like, that's the guy with the Gatling guns in the corner. So let's just go somewhere.
Get him. Right.
We don't have a tank tonight, so we're going to move on. Yes, I'm preparing for the Ukraine people. What do you think's going on here? Even though I live on the Gulf Coast, it never hurts to be prepared. Actually, I got a friend of mine. I don't know how he got away with this, but he owns a really nice car, and he's got fake Gatling guns that pop out the sides, like a movie prop things. But they're on real mounts. The problem is he actually owns the real ones. So all you have to do is switch them out. I'm thinking, dude, you would go to prison forever. And they're legal to have, which still floors me. There's quite a few things that you can buy that blow up shit that are legal. I'm really surprised. Really. So if you're UFO hunting, there you go. Try to knock out their power supply. I would use an EMP pulse there, guys. I think that would work. And it's not deadly, just knock the little electronics out of the Gray's head. And see
no.
Matter of fact, when y'all do that, I want to be there. I'll charge seats and cut y'all in for a percentage because I want to see how the Grays react after you try it.
Oh my God, I can already tell where this show's going today.
It would be fun. Recently the Grays have been coming up a lot lately for a lot of reasons. I'm not sure why. Some groups I'm dealing with, which you know what I'm talking about, but for the rest of y'all, it's just I've been working with an organization on some maybe contact to their leader way back, God, like in 1920 or 1930 when I was a teenager. But anyway, long story short, today they're a big group of people, and they believe in they believe in ET. They're not the only religious group that believes in ET.
They do or they don't.
They do.
They do.
I'm not gonna say why or how, because as soon as I do, it'll give them away. But no, we're not even gonna start popping up religions until we get them right. Just don't worry about it. It's just one of those things. And I've been checking into them a lot because I have for some reason it's become a big interest in my life in the last few months, and I've been finding out some really interesting stuff. But because I started digging into them, I realized how many other so-called religious groups have interest in extraterrestrials or believe in ET or even believe that ET may have been the bearers of life on our planet and will later on move somewhere else. It's very interesting to find out. You'd be really surprised. Out of the 1,001 religions, there's probably 40 or 50 of them. I'm not sure who's the biggest. Raelians like to boast of the biggest, but they only have 50,000 members. I don't know if they're the biggest or not. But they got a lot of money to spend, I'll tell you that much. There's several of these organizations, these religions, that have a lot of money to spend, too. So it's been an interesting thing learning about them and what they believe, what they don't believe, what they think's coming, what they don't think's coming. It's been an interesting ride, I gotta say. And a lot of them, to be weird about this, are not that far off from each other. And some of them are more secretive about how they keep this stuff, and some are not. But it's like when I met Monsignor Balducci in Washington, D.C. back in, it was 2010, I think. Maybe not. I was at the X conference doing a lecture. And he was too. And Paul Harris was translating for us. I remember when I asked him, are extraterrestrials? He said, well, of course they are. They're just another one of God's children. He said, the only problems for humans is they're not just mentally and physically and more technologically advanced, but they're on a higher spiritual plane than we are. He said they've been around much longer. He said these aliens are way, way older than man is. And so they're closer to God than we are. They've been around enough to kind of move up the evolutionary God chain from the way he was saying. Just weirded me out a little bit because this is a Catholic priest we're talking about, a Monsignor actually.
Right.
Kind of like, okay. So then I'm listening to a lecture by the astronomer for the Vatican. He basically says the same thing. So then a friend of mine sends me a bishop in Rome talking about this, at the Vatican talking about this. And as he goes into God's other children who are on a much higher spiritual plane than we are. And they understand more about God and the universe. Now this is the Vatican, who have been all-knowing, all-seeing for 2,000 years. all of a sudden we're going to have a role reversal here, or we're going to look at the universe differently. I mean,
Hey, when in Rome,
when the Pope was
literally,
asked,
right?
well, the Pope was asked outright, are aliens real? He said yes. I mean,
Yeah. I
and that
mean,
just tells you somewhere in them honeycombs there's a bunch of stuff locked up about, what, they probably got some graves down there petrified or something, knowing them.
they
Lord,
might. It's possible. They have
it
everything
might be
down
there.
there. But I think it's
What
great
was
that.
the bishop that lost his finger? Not the bishop, the saint. That might be one of them damn graves.
Mm. But it's good, I think, that they're coming forward with something like that because there are a lot of very faithful people out there who don't know what to believe. Some of these faiths, do not teach that the creator could create something aside from just what is on this planet that is so much vaster. Like if you believe that your creator created this universe and all that's in it, then you really have to consider that there is more in it, without it
I agree.
infringing on the belief system. So if the Vatican has found a way to come out and do this where it doesn't infringe on the belief system, then I say all the power to them if they're doing it for the right reasons.
Mhm.
you know, um, Zach says the only message I get in the congressional hearings on UFOs is we don't know what they are. We need more money to find out what they are. Yes,
Well, if you
probably.
followed all of the news channels, because we're doing some news, we're doing a news show on the Centralist on Friday, but I know Sean said he's going to be there. Michael will probably be there. Hopefully, Jay will be there. But anyway, we're going to be talking about some of this
Right.
in the news show. But from all the major networks except for Fox, I got, this doesn't prove extraterrestrials. Yeah, I kind of agree. It doesn't. The
Hmm.
one friend of mine had called me today about it and sent me over some messages about one of them that was a triangle, a white triangle. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm dying to see it. So some of that could be ours, or that could be theirs. I mean, we do
Hmm.
know that our government's been messing with the triangles for a while, and now that all of a sudden we're flying hypersonic engines all over the place, just tells you we've been having them for a long time. All of a sudden, America, we don't have no hypersonic missiles. Next thing I know, we got tests in three different branches of the military and DARPA out there doing it. I'm like,
And it's reverse engineering. Like,
it's
how can
just
you
stuff we've already got.
something
I'm like, yeah, we're using this for other things,
right?
probably like the RAN scoop engines, because they actually talked about that on one of them, having RAN scoop. So this
Mhm.
is technology we've had for a while. We just haven't decided what we were going to do with it yet. I mean, we've tried building like the Aurora craft that's been seen a couple of times flying around, but
Mhm.
I don't think they want anything that can jump from here to Moscow in 5 minutes. I think
I
it
do.
weighs the world too much. Well, I do as a
Like
person
an
wanting to
alien
travel.
chauffeur, please.
And before anybody writes it, it's more like 25 minutes, but still, it's boom
Right.
boom. You go up, you come down, you're there.
UFO Uber.
And the ram scoops, so a good chunk of their fuel come from the atmosphere itself. They're very interesting, and they've been around for a while. Just like our stealth technology. Somebody asked me the other day, "Well, stealth started or told me the other day, they go, stealth started in like '79." I started laughing. He said, "Well, like '70." I'm like, "No." And he said, "Well, what was the first stealth aircraft?" I said, "The first stealth aircraft I'm aware of was the SR-71 Blackbird, which I think debuted in like '50 or '51." I said, "By the way, that is still the fastest plane in the world." I said, "Here we are 70 years later, and it's still the fastest plane in the world. And
Right.
it is still a stealth aircraft." As far as I know, that was the first one. God knows what we've invented and came up with since then. And that's the real problem to all the UFO stuff in the United States. So in the old days, we had to contend with weather anomaly, crankers, hoaxers, freaks, and DARPA, and then working with, back then it wasn't DARPA, somebody else, but they were working on new projects, and occasionally what might be an extraterrestrial. Today is much different. Today is the world of the drone. Drones, you can use it. Drones look, oh God, they make a UFO guy's job a nightmare. Anybody can have a UFO now. And I mean, you can make that damn thing look realistic. It can go sit up there and hover and take off and then go dark, black, dark against the sky where you can't see it because there's no engine. It's all electric. Uh,
And they can get pretty big, can't they?
drones can get huge. I mean, get as big as any aircraft we got. We're actually building drone models of the SR. We got of the F-35s. We got a couple of drones of the F-35s, and I heard
Wow.
we have a couple of F-22s. They actually say the F-22 is safer to fly as a drone than it is by a thing. But they called it the widow killer forever because it's all fly by wire. It's all fly by computer, really. I mean, basically, you're just in it. The plane's doing whatever the hell it wants, according to which way you move the stick or push the button. it's like a video game. And
Wow.
usually it's faster than you are, so it's dangerous weaponry. But we've got so many things flying in the sky, and we got these drone swarms now, which is probably things people were reporting back in the '90s were these drone swarms, which run on different technology than they do today. But I remember the guy who came out with the technology. All of a sudden, he's flying 100 drones together at a time. First off, as a weapon, that is just devastating. And then some company came out last week with a bucket that can attach to a regular sized drone that can drop bombs.
Oh my gosh.
So that means any country like us, who's got a buttload of drones flying all over the place, China's probably there too. I mean, we just weaponized our drones beyond belief. Plus, we got all these specialty drones like the ones we just shoot sent to Ukraine, but they look
We're
like
getting to a
UFOs a
point where
lot.
you're not even going to need actual human soldiers between AI and
Well,
drones.
we've got one that it's cruising along. It's kind of skinny looking, and it'll just be cruising, and then it has the ability to stop and hover, and then to go again. It looks like a UFO, especially if you're seeing it off a mile off or half a mile off. It kind of got a saucery look to it. It's kind of grayish, silver shimmery. It doesn't come up on radar. It's silent because again, it's electric. It's not flying on gas.
Right.
So
It's very
jet
quiet.
fuel. So it's much quieter.
Hmm.
Um, it's technology today is scary because we don't know what the hell's going on.
Mm.
So now it makes it that much harder to figure out who is
Is
there.
doing what?
Oops, sorry guys.
Right.
Who's doing what with what, and that's one of the reasons the Pentagon wants us to start watching for them because they know Russia and China and other countries are developing drone technology, and we don't want to be sitting here one day and we say, "Oh, look at all the pretty glowing balloons," and then all of a sudden, 5,000 bombs drop out of the sky from 5,000 drones from China.
Hmm.
We don't, and they're so small. Unless they're in a big pack, you're probably not even going to notice them.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this is this. So how do you know if it's an actually alien craft? So the aliens must love this. We've actually made it that much harder now to figure out what's real and what's not. And you can't even say some of these pilots who have seen weird stuff weren't drones being tested by other countries.
So do you think this is what they want, perhaps? Like, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Do you
Yes.
think that maybe the Pentagon would prefer that people don't really know the difference? So if aliens are coming in the
Well,
atmosphere, or this like that we're not going to know the difference? Like, I'm just looking at, again, devil's
well,
advocate being
this
different
is a
false flags. We should fear
two-sided
them. We
thing.
should,
Well, no, the Pentagon's going to play this both sides. They're going to play
right.
this as, oh yeah, if you see a UFO, report it. But they don't want you to report anything because then they can find out one, if someone's flying illegal drones, the FAA is going to love this. They'll
Yeah.
be, because people fly illegal drones all the time in our country, so they'll be able to, but it turned out to be a drone, but still they'll be happy. They might even give you a reward if it turns out to be somebody flying an illegal.
Hmm.
Um, so they want you to do that, and if you see something weird, they're going to still want you to report it. It's what they were saying today. They really want to make it the way pilots can go back to reporting these things without being ridiculed or made fun of. And
That's a big one,
it
right?
is because in the old days you could report them. Today they took the Foo Fighters very serious, which nobody still today can't figure out what the hell Foo Fighters were, which was, oh man, what is that, 60, 70, 80 years ago? And we still don't know
Hmm.
what the hell they were. Matter of fact, the closest we can come today would be drone technology, where the drone would come along the top of it, hover around it, do a circle around, and take off. We got drones that can do that today.
Hmm.
So in that case, it could have been somebody more advanced, or more than likely it was just something somebody here visiting.
So
We're going to do that when we get into space. We're going to do that. When we find races less advanced, we're going to go visit. A lot of times we'll be disguised and hide, and sometimes we'll screw up. But we're going to go visit. If Africa and South America taught us anything, it says don't screw around with shit. Uh,
Okay, kids, don't try this at home.
I'm
Yeah,
just
so
saying,
so
don't.
basically, all they're trying to get away from the traditional stigma that sort of gets in the way of like really good reporting. But I mean, the media gets a bad rap, as well. I mean, we've talked about how that's been used as a tool. Just
Well,
say what
let's
you're
say
told to
DARPA.
say, and that's that. We don't.
But
It's
if
hard to.
DARPA's flying something out in the Arizona, or New Mexico, or
Mhm.
Colorado, or anywhere out there, Vegas, and somebody gets reported, they can use that. DARPA can say, "Oh no, it wasn't ours. It must have been an alien," and then that'll just play. And the media will carry that and say, "Well, they'll do something funny, and they'll say something stupid like." Well, nobody can really identify. Maybe it's an alien. Like, don't be stupid, when it probably was or was not.
Right.
But it helps DARPA. I mean, they've been hiding stuff like the Cash Landry case. That's the way they hid it. This thing, we don't know if it was a recovered craft or just something our government was working. They think it was some type of nuclear or atomic aircraft. Um, Stan Friedman and I talked about this a couple of times, and the reason why we don't have them is because it would make every airport basically a nuclear bomb or a dirty bomb because you have to keep reactor rods there to change it out on the aircraft. So it's one of the reasons that we didn't go that route. But whatever this was, it was kind of floating along, moving along. It got over the top of the highway in Texas and it was just floating along, and it passed over this car with these people standing inside and outside of it, and behind it was all kind of aircraft, helicopters and stuff, chase planes and things like that. Keep in mind, it just sounds like it was something else. Well, the lady who was standing outside died of cancer, not that long after. It actually melted the asphalt around the car. The other two got cancer, but it didn't kill them. And still today, they have not recanted their story about what happened. So even though it sounded a lot like an alien craft, it's definitely a UFO. It's unidentified flying object. But was it alien? No, it sounded like it was something we were doing that got out of control, which happens sometimes. I mean, it was in the middle of nowhere, Texas. So they weren't trying to hurt anybody. It was just they were just on this lonely road cruising on, and I can understand that. A lot of times I'm out on lonely highways in the middle of nowhere, cruising around looking for stuff, and shit like that just happens because you're in the right place at the wrong time, or the wrong place at the right time, however you want to look at it. But in their case, it was definitely the wrong place at the wrong time. It's a case that's still prominent today, but it's a proof case that the military uses UFOs as a way to hide stuff, or to say, "Oh, well, that's not ours." Even though I think they ended up having to pay out in this particular case.
So they're playing both sides of the fence essentially.
Yeah. Why not? It's your fence. Why not play both sides of it?
Wow. I don't know. It's really, again, it's really difficult. To me, it comes back down to the false flag thing. It's easier to give a false flag if your own people are up there creating the havoc because you're playing both sides. Therefore, people are liable to think, well, all of this is happening. You've got these UFOs that are, causing issues, that are swarming the aircraft carriers, that are harassing the pilots. But are they extraterrestrial crafts, or is this just a show we're putting on, getting a bit of video footage? Because let's face it, the military and the war machine, as I call it, it's big business. Right, we all know this. It's not a secret. So
come on, so far, what, 40 billion to the Ukraine so far? That's big business.
Big business. So again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but isn't that a really good way to create a false flag and instill fear that people should fear, extraterrestrials, and that this is a viable, we have to protect ourselves from this, right?
See, unfortunately, you can't really make people fear extraterrestrials because they've already been working against that. And the main reason why is we're like cows, okay? Most of the time, docile. No, we are. The human race is like cattle. We're docile most of the time. We're walking around, grazing our little grass, minding our little business. You scare us or piss us off, we stampede, and then we become a dangerous mass that wipes out everything.
Then we're a herd of cows.
So aliens really don't want that particular design, and neither does the military, for that matter. Right. This is, you don't want like half of Arizona losing their mind, stampeding around, and 500,000 people get killed because people are running over each other.
Right.
It's so scaring the population that way doesn't work. Now, breaking us in and helping us understand will make us want to explore space, like the doorway on Mars. To me, that doorway is much more interesting than anything that was said on the Pentagon thing today. I listened to it. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I agree with most of the assessments. It doesn't prove extraterrestrial; it just proves weird anomalies that could be extraterrestrial, could be something else, could be some kind of drone, could be something flying around that don't belong there. So, but this doorway thing, somebody said, well, it's only 3 feet. Well, 3 feet, still 3 feet. And it's still got 45-degree corners. It's got a flat wall coming off the 45-degree corner with a capstone. I'm like, now I've actually seen designs like this in Egypt.
That's right. It's definitely, it's intentionally created. It's not It's not like
if you
a
go in
natural formation, is
some
what
of
you're
the
saying.
Druids, some of the Viking stuff. Yeah, there's no way it's natural. They can try to say it is all day long. And
Yeah.
somebody said, "Well, look from a different angle." I said, "Yeah, if you get the right angle where you can't see the corners no more, I bet you doesn't look like that. But as long as you can see the two corners and the inches going down the side, look smooth walls. No, not like that. Breakoffs, yeah, not smooth wall. This looks like it had maybe like a limestone coating on it or something. It looks
Right.
like that all the way out, and it's more than that. When you look, you follow the 45 down. There's actually a bevel angle that comes down and turns and comes out like this. Well, I'm sorry, it goes like this. I don't know. Doesn't look like it's natural. I hate to get into Mars because the face, people are like, well, remember the face, remember the face. I said, well, the face never convinced me that it was a face.
That's
I said,
pareidolia too. There's a lot of
pareidolia is a sneaky
pareidolia.
bitch,
Yeah.
and you need to get
Right.
multiple shots. This is different. I've seen this from 3 shots now. One of it looks like nothing. Two, it looks like somebody built it.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 out of 3, it looks like somebody built it. But and people always want to go to the face, but there's much better things on Mars than the face. There's those weird tube things. There is at least 4 pyramids that are definitely pyramids of some kind. They're 5-sided, but they're definitely some type of pyramid. They're even equidistal sides all the way around from top to bottom and across each side. That Mother Nature don't do stuff like that. Sorry, guys,
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't happen naturally. That's why NASA never wants to talk about the Sedona region because when you take an aerial shot, it looks like an aerial shot over Rome or Egypt or South America of somebody's ruins. That's what it
Right.
looks like.
Right.
If you've seen this, if somebody told you this shot was taken on Earth somewhere, you'd have no problem knowing they were ruins. Everybody would agree they were ruins, but because of the fact that they were taken on Mars, we don't want to talk about that. But that goes right back to the desensitization program. So when you and I were just knee high to a cricket, um,
Mm.
actually before that, really, when Disney was about knee high to a cricket, they decided that okay, we're going to introduce extraterrestrials to the world now in a big way. Because remember, we had Jules Verne's and a couple of others who were already writing stuff like this in the 1800s. We also had Frankenstein and things like this. But this was much different. This was intentional to get people used to seeing aliens, and not just one alien, but a variety of different types of aliens. This was a twofold reason. One, when you can look at everything differently and not hate, it helps to actually work out things like prejudice and things like that. It actually helps with that, but it also desensitizes your mind to the fact that it's something weird and it's extraterrestrial from another world.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, your mind gets okay. Yeah, well, it's another alien movie. It's another this. Now here we are. Fast forward all these years to 2022. We got Avatar. We've got Star Wars. We've got Star Trek. Almost all the major blockbuster movies are science fiction and they're dealing with space. Now, not all of them, people don't get crazy. There are movies like Titanic and stuff like that. There are love stories out there and a few other kind of movies that have done big. But when it comes right to look at Avatar, the biggest money making
It
movie in all
was.
time.
I can't
So
tell you how many times I saw that movie.
my son was telling me
I'm a big
today
geek.
they
Yeah.
put the trailer up. The trailer's been watched more than all of Star Wars and Star Trek trailers combined.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So, and we're getting used to these weird aliens, these weird worlds, these weird planets. We're getting used to thinking in different ways and not in a straight human kind of God kind of way. We're moving slowly but surely. We're moving away from that.
Mm.
We're being nudged away a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. So this has been going on. So now we're at the point, and I've been saying it since I was hosting Wake Up USA. We're at the point where something has to give. So we either need to find like something like a plant on Mars, or maybe a mouse or something, so or maybe some bones or something. Okay, well the doorway does pretty well. That suggests that there was, not is, was life on Mars. We
That's
haven't
right.
seen anything that says that there's life on Mars right now. There may be some on the ground, but that's another thing. But right now, when you look at Mars, Mars looks dead. Okay, so wow, there was a race there at one time. I hope it wasn't Andrew Basagio and Alfred Weber, but still,
Mm-hmm.
because then bastards will be right, and I'll have to kiss them both. So the thing about it is something was there. Who was it? What was it? Man, if it's only 3 foot, that's about a gray's height, man. I'm getting a little nervous.
I know.
It's, so, but what was it? And NASA didn't want to talk about it. Nobody in the world wants to talk about it
But you
because
see, why not? They're not like, again, let's look at the Pentagon and NASA. I mean, let's face it, right now they're talking about all of this stuff. Um, you can't hide. I mean, well, I mean, you're military, I
That's
suppose you
too
can,
real.
but the satellites capture this. They're giving us tidbits, but they don't want to explore it. Here's a tidbit that the rover caught, right? Or here's a tidbit that the satellites caught, but they're giving it to you, but they don't want to really discuss it. They're leaving it to our own assessment, I suppose. Like, would it not be better to just come out and say, you know what? Yeah, this is what we think it is.
You know,
I mean, wouldn't it?
because it's
Then
not going
people
to
might
work
leave
because
it
of us.
alone.
No, because people are not going to leave it alone. People can help themselves. Again, they're nosy and irritating. So when
Yeah,
you get
but
them
if
in
they
the
already
path,
know
they're
the answer,
fine.
then maybe they'll leave it alone. Right now, they're leaving it
They're
up to our own
going to agree on the
devices.
answer.
It could be
That's the
anything.
problem. They're not going to agree on the answer. They're just like everything else on our planet. There'll be three sides.
Mm,
There'll be, the left, the right, and the truth. So
right.
it's
Whatever's
just
in the middle there. So
everything in the middle tends to be the
let's
truth.
back up for 1 minute then. Because you were talking about all these science fiction films. There is a story that Gene Roddenberry actually met with the Council of Nine, right? These truly enlightened beings who wanted him to come forward and write and to do something, to find a way, I guess, to get us as people used to seeing other people and beings that just looked different and how they worked together, coexisted. I mean, it's pretty primitive back in the day, with all of this. Now, this is just something that's going around, and some ufologists say, yeah, this actually happened. Others like, yeah, whatever. It's all like the story we hear about George Lucas going back in time to visit himself with the script from Star Wars because it was so
Hey, that
freaking
was good.
amazing.
That was DC
Or
Legends, man. That was good stuff. I
right,
don't
I
think he
know,
from
but
DC.
do you see how this stuff floats around? Because let's face it, Gene Roddenberry was so far ahead of his time. Star Trek was just something that left us all in awe, going, wow,
Y'all gonna make me
who
burst your
dreams
bubble, aren't
stuff
y'all? Oh
up?
my god. So
Right?
so first off, y'all know Gene Roddenberry used to be a Western writer, right?
Yeah,
So a lot of the themes you see in Star Trek was in his westerns,
yeah,
just brought into a science fiction and out of a western, but it was the same story, by
right.
the way.
They were
just
only with
I just
space. I
I don't
know,
want
I
you
know,
bursting, but and secondly,
I
if
know.
the aliens wanted Gene to have that kind of insight, they would just send it to him. They'd upload it to his head. He would need no counsel. Now he's not important enough for that.
Yeah,
He's
right.
even though Star Trek changed the world,
Hey,
and
man,
probably
I'm the
going to keep
messenger. That's all.
he's going to keep changing the world. He's just he's just one. I mean, there's Jules Verne's, there's George Lucas, there's
Yeah.
what's his name, the Clockwork Orange, there's Copen, whatever his name is, Franco. What's his name? Oh God, I can't from Clockwork Orange.
Oh, I can't remember it either, but that was
Anyway,
ahead of its time too.
anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
it's regardless. There's been lots and lots of these people out there, and
yeah,
the reason Star Trek does as well as it is because it makes a lot of money.
yeah.
So,
But it's so out there. I mean, there's
and
just things
really,
that
it's
came out in that series that left people, if anything, it left us sitting there, sort of thinking, yeah, you know what? You get used to seeing these different sort of beings, and you think to yourself, I could probably coexist with people like this. I recently read something
as long as they're not trying
about
to eat my strawberry
aliens.
ice cream, we're good to go.
I recently read something about aliens, where the individual who wrote the article basically said something along the lines of, you can't believe them. They're evil. They create hybrids because they can't exist for themselves. This planet is about humans and our evolution. It shouldn't be, we shouldn't be tolerating hybrids. We shouldn't be tolerating these ETs coming on. And I think to myself, why the division? Like, why not? Are we all, stuff that you've talked about on the show before? We pretty much probably are all hybrids in one form or another. So
So,
why not like coexist? Why is this such an issue?
because we ignorant as a species, we ignorant. That's why.
Right.
If we were, I don't know. The problem is, it doesn't look like we're going to get any more enlightened. And what I mean by that is, we're developing apart, not together.
Right.
We're breaking into segments. So really, what needs to happen is we need to find other worlds for each one of these segments to develop its own world and form a coalition, and maybe we'll have a chance then. But at the rate we're going right now, somebody's going to nuke somebody. Just a matter of time, and it could be us. I mean, we're the ones that nuked them the first time. So
Right.
the United States already proved it'll use nukes. So it doesn't mean we won't. China might have to use them. Russia wants to use them, but Russia don't want to get wiped off the face of the planet, and neither do we, for that matter.
Right.
All Americans will move to Canada, and then they'll be outnumbered like 5-1. Rough, man. Especially them crazy Americans. The Yankees are crazy. So
do you think this new task force is a way of just integrating us all? Because now they're saying if you see something, you absolutely need to report it. So do you think that they just want a mass report of whatever they see? Does it matter what it is?
What it is. They want to know. They want to know what it is that they don't know what it is. So
yeah,
a lot of this stuff they understand what it is. A lot of what was shown today or yesterday was stuff they really have a good idea of what it is, or they wouldn't show it. Remember, that's why they're having a secret meeting. So you go, wait. Well, you're telling us, and then all this stuff, all the reporters are like, oh, what they really proved. Yeah, but all of a sudden we got to have a secret meeting about this. What's in the secret meeting that we don't get to hear about? Is it something about an extraterrestrial being seen, a craft being down? Is there something along these lines? Somebody in storage somewhere? It's obviously something they don't want us to know. And why don't they want us to know? Is it going to scare us? Because if it's an alien or a secret weapon that our enemies have, it could scare us, cause a panic. So is that what it is? Is it they can't control the information? Are they told not to put it out there?
So by reporting it, they're essentially controlling the information.
Yeah, or so this way they can put a stop to a lot of weirdness that goes on ahead of time. That's what Project Science, Project Grudge, and Project Blue Book were really about. They were about taking calls and disproving. And that's what this is going to be about. This is going to be about people going to call in and they go, oh no, it was a drone. Oh no, it was the Goodyear blimp. Oh no, it was this, that, or the other damn thing. There's going to be a lot of that. And a lot of it's going to be true, but a lot of it's not. You're going to hear a lot of it. Oh, it was Venus. It was Venus. It was Venus. I would figure by 2022, most people would know what freaking Venus looks like, but maybe not. We all been living inside a lot lately. So people, go look up in the sky and find out what Venus is before you go report it, okay? Because it does look like a UFO a lot of times.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty bright. Yeah.
So,
or the space station, same idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in the skies and lots of satellites now, all over the place. I know,
even more now.
Elon Musk just put up another 53. His goal is to get like 10,000 out there. He's going to make it to where Russia or China gives us any trouble. He's just going to swarm their satellites and destroy them, which he can do with these. We found out recently he can do this with these little satellites. He can ram them right in and destroy them. I'm wondering if the little dude didn't put a charge on them.
That's sort of frightening when you're thinking of a person that's got that kind of control. Now, I mean,
he got worried because America wasn't doing nothing about it, so he decided, you know what, I'm a private citizen. I can put as many satellites up there as I want. I'm doing good. I'm giving everybody internet in places they couldn't get it before.
Right.
So nobody can really complain about it. And now the government might even pay for half of it. That wizard.
Yeah.
Yes, wizard. I hate that.
It's smart. And when you get into the whole satellite thing and you're getting into artificial intelligence, what are your thoughts on, and I'm going to say theory because I don't know, I just read a lot, this computer artificial intelligence that connects to all these satellites that's believed to be in Antarctica named Baby?
Don't you know? I know. Yeah.
It feels like the Matrix. I'm just saying, it connects to 5G.
Sometimes
and all
it does
of
feel like the Matrix
satellites.
when you get one of them weird deja vu moments, which I don't get as many as I used to when I was young. Maybe I don't pay as much attention. Yeah, that's a good thing.
But if it connects to everything, what are we all worried about? It can operate anything, could take over anything.
See, I think thanks to some 70s and 80s computer takeover movies that there's still a lot of autonomous control in between. Right. I remember, this was like in 85 or 86, Congress passing laws dealing with artificial intelligence because they were scared that somebody might take over Russia's missile defense system, my eyes, and start a war, which is not beyond the realm of possibility. I mean, watch The Matrix. I mean, you never know. Oh, hello, Frog. How are you? Is that an alien? Oh, I know who that is. Okay, never mind. Let's move on.
I was going to say,
Let's move on. That's just somebody coming to visit for a little while. It's strange. It's like strange. Oh, people, let me know what y'all think about Strange New Worlds. The new Star Trek is out. I enjoyed it. It's just what it says it's going to be. Week to week, different shows, just like the original series. So it's been kind of interesting so far. Captain Pike's doing a good job. Spock's doing a good job. I like number one the best. She's doing a good job too. Yes, the way the original Star Trek was meant to be, actually. That was the what do you call it? Not the showrunner, the oh hell, the pilot. That's Pike was in the pilot. Yeah.
That's right.
And now he's got his own series. All these 70 years later, somehow, or 60 years later, he's got his own series. He's like 150.
Took him long enough.
It's kind of strange.
It took him long enough for sure.
Our government, along with everybody else's government for that matter, is wants to know what's out there. So we're getting ready to get into space seriously. Thanks to Elon and Jeff Bezos and China. Thank you, China. We're going to get into space seriously. Now, you know what's funny about this? I say that. If you look at a lot of the sci-fi movies like Babylon 5 or Firefly or a couple others besides that, they make it like that, where China and the corporations from the United States kind of merge and get into deep space. And almost all the world you go to, everybody speaks both Mandarin and English, which is interesting. And also in Blade Runner was like that as well, but there's a couple more besides that. Where they twist the two together because they know eventually that's what's going to happen. It's either that's going to happen or we wipe each other out, one of the two. So everybody's picking the lighter that somehow or another we'll figure out a way to just live together and move on and get off. Well, but a lot of these shows have it set up like that. And that's the way it's looking right now. The United States is going to get into space on a major way. Elon and them are looking at, they're talking about mining Elon wants to go to Mars and live there, but he wants to mine the asteroid belt. So there's a couple others. There's so much. There's one asteroid on there that is worth more than our entire planet. More than our entire damn planet. They found a nickel iron asteroid, God, like 30 years ago that was worth almost $1 trillion in the market. I mean, just astronomical amounts of money to be made here. And the people who are going to be out there working and the equipment are going to be stinking filthy rich. It's going to be like the original oil guys. They'll be out there, and so we're moving into space, and the aliens know it. Everybody knows it. We've stayed on the planet as long as we can. There's 7.5 billion of us. We're starting to feel a little crowded. Well, especially if you live in Europe or Asia.
But are we? It's a big planet.
It is, but that's what I was just saying. So from our point of view, because we live in the Americas, man, there's land everywhere. You don't have time, can't see your damn neighbors. But in Euro and Asia, it's different. They're old worlds. China 1.5 billion, India 1.3 billion.
Oh, sure, depending where you go. I've been to different parts of the world, let me tell you, and there's just as much space as there is here.
Do you realize, and most people don't think about this, but 11 nuclear warheads could wipe out, 3.6 billion people, half the population in one attack. Just by hitting several just those places precisely. Because it's population masses. And they're talking about fallout and things like that as well, but still, that's a lot. You got China and China and India alone are almost 3 billion, and if you add in all the rest of the Asian out there, that's another 300 or 400 million, and in Europe is probably 300, 400 million.
Europe is a big place, combined all these countries, and I've been to different parts of it. There's lots of room. It's very spaced out. I mean, it's like any big city. You look at Canada, you look at Toronto with 2-3 million people.
I like what the Texas governor said. He said all the Mediterranean countries could fit into Texas. Right? You tell them, Texas guys. You don't say around, buddy.
There we go.
Now, maybe in Alaska, because Alaska's huge. It's half the size of the continental U.S.
Well, I mean, you look at some countries, look at like Cairo, like just one city. Egypt's got at the time I was there was 52 million people in one very small country. So, I mean, I can see.
Tiny ass country.
Now it would be.
Themselves off pretty good lately, or on their vomit. Did they kind of slow down?
Yeah. The thing is, I think if people could be self-sufficient and get along, I think the planet as a whole can fit that many people as a whole. But unfortunately, we have high concentrations of areas that are draining the resources, and it's
Well, yeah,
becoming an issue because other
the
people don't want to
Canadians.
share
That's
their
why
resources.
these Canadians are hogs,
Oh,
man. Lord,
yeah.
y'all suck about
Are you
oil, all
kidding?
natural
JT's got the doors
gas,
open. All right, come on
all
in.
the
Vote
chocolate.
for
I mean,
me.
it's ridiculous, man. It's
Yeah.
crazy up there.
No.
No, before anybody writes him, just teasing Michelle because he's from Canada. Calm down. It's
That's okay.
but
That's okay.
but it's like Alaska. I mean, there's a lot of sightings in Alaska.
Yeah.
Being, there's not that many people there, but there's a lot of territory. Um,
So
the place is huge.
technically speaking, you're looking at all these people who have like the space race, as I call it, trying to make their way into space. And if this happens, then that technically puts them in the whole UAP category if they come lurking
Well,
about
they
as
might
well.
be a UAP on somebody else's planet.
Well, right?
So I think for them, for a lot of these guys who are doing this, because it's not just there was four billionaires in this. So the Sierra Nevada, which is an investment group. There's what's his name, that Maccabee, or whatever his name, that built his Virgin Airlines,
Right. Oh,
Virgin.
Sir Richard Branson.
Yeah, and then there's the Bezos, and I mean this was the way. And I said this, and I guess I get to say it because I called it for anybody called it. When I first started doing radio, I'm like, if you ever want to see us take off in space, you just privatize and see what happens. And I preached
Mhm.
that shit until all of a sudden one day it was privatized. I was like, woohoo, yeah, baby.
Well,
And
because
there we
nobody
go.
else is getting into space that way, except for
I've seen more happen in the last 10 years in the
yeah,
entire time NASA set a space program.
right.
And don't get me wrong, NASA. I'm not hating on you. I'm a big fan of NASA.
Oh,
But these guys are not building faster, better, cheaper. They're building. Let's do it right. Let's get it right. Let's not waste a bunch of money. Let's get it right. So we
mhm.
got money to build other stuff. Now,
But you
um,
have to come clean then, as far as NASA and the Pentagon go, because you can have all these independent people going into space. They're going to see all kinds of stuff.
yeah, but don't quite work that way. You still got to have NASA's permission to go to space. Um, don't ask me exactly how. I guess you could go over to Russia, but even there, you got to have their
Well,
permission.
they're talking about bringing everyday people. If you can afford to go, you
Yeah,
can
and
go.
they're not
I
gonna
mean,
have a
it's been
problem with that. They're
happening.
getting ready. They're getting ready to put the launch zone. I think it's in New Mexico. They got the spaceport.
Right.
Anyway, it's somewhere out there.
Because even our
Um,
astronauts have blown the whistle.
but that's the problem. Are they just gonna let them just go up space? They're gonna probably
Lots
make it
of
where
them
you
have
gotta
blown
get.
the whistle.
Yeah, but they're gonna have to make it where you get special licenses, and so you'll see a lot of Air Force and Navy pilots start becoming astronauts, and they won't even become astronauts anymore; they'll still be pilots. They'll
Because
just
see,
be
they
running
will
shuttles
still
up and down.
because they still have to abide by their even though they're retired, maybe leaving and then becoming pilots, or you have Air Force people becoming, astronauts and stuff. You would still have to abide by because, like yourself, right? You were in the Navy, and you still have to abide by certain things. You can't just go blabbering off everything you want to
Yeah,
blabber
because
off
you get
about.
in big trouble for it. They're
That's what I'm
gonna,
saying. So if you have your own people who are in the position, put your own people in a position of being an astronaut and being these pilots that are going into space, and they're still abiding by the code of conduct, so to speak. Whereas if you just have everyday people who are becoming paid astronauts by these independent companies that are taking everyday people into space, then you start seeing things, then they could just come off and go blah, blah, blah. So you want your own people,
yeah. Well,
I guess is what I'm trying to say.
minus a war, in less than 100 years, we'll be living on at least five other bodies in our solar system. At least five other,
Yeah.
and that's in less than 100 years. We'll be on Mars probably within 10 years. If Elon's got his way, it'll definitely be 10 years. It might be 15, but he's going to Mars no matter what.
Mhm.
And they're getting ready to start. They're talking about just recently starting to send supplies there. They want to spend like 5 years just sending rockets with supplies there, which is a good way of doing it. That way, when you get there, you've got a 10-year supply, whatever, and you can still have people sending stuff. And I imagine Elon, even if it's in 10 years, he'll probably still wait another 5 or 10 after that before he goes. So
Mhm.
they'll be sending more and more supplies. It'll be a self-sufficient colony.
Right.
Eventually, they'll bring bacteria and put it into the soil. They might find it on the ground. Regardless, they'll be able to grow things, and they'll get smart. They'll put a lot of their colonies inside of mountains or like Olympus Mons, somewhere where the radiation is going to be far less and it'll be easy to pressurize and
Mm.
start living there. I mean, the only downside to living on Mars for humans is it'll change our bodies eventually because of the lack of gravity. The fetus will change. So
So
they're going to have to. They're
our
going to have to
bodies
have a.
adapt, much like aliens would adapt.
Yeah, that's what would happen. But they have a plan. So the main habitat will be on a 1G. It'll be in a little thing that spins at 1G. And that way, anytime you're at home, asleep, or anytime in the main habitat, you'll always have a 1G environment. So that way, if you're pregnant or something like that, the baby will still, do normal and will grow up normal. But if you don't have that, they've already showed what happens to chickens. They end up with no legs because they don't need them in space when they're hatched. All kind of weird mutations happen. So, and if you moved, if that happened to you on Mars, I would imagine it's 1/6 gravity, 1/3 gravity. Um, you might be a little skinnier, a little linkier. Your legs and arms might be a little long. You'll definitely be able to jump because you won't need to climb.
So many of the ETs we're seeing here could potentially be us from
we could just we could have been we could have just been Martians that were transplanted here whenever the catastrophe happened.
Right.
So as far as we know, there was a catastrophe on Mars, Venus, the asteroid belt, and Earth all around the same time, somewhere between 55 and 65 million years ago. Nobody knows exactly what happened or when it happened. It does sound like maybe a big body maybe crashed, and maybe there was a planet between Mars and Jupiter, and it was destroyed,
Mm.
and that created an asteroid belt. But what happened, it sent asteroids flying out from it. So one smacked the crap out of Earth, one definitely smacked Mars, and one probably smacked Venus. And that whatever life was going on those three planets at the time, which all three of them probably had life, was pretty much wiped out. Earth seemed to be the only one that really came back. Venus may one day still come back when it cools down. I mean, it's the same size as Earth. It has a rotation. It doesn't have any moons, but hell, we could tow some asteroids over there and give it a damn moon as far as that goes. But it will cool down, and it's a shame that you couldn't pump the greenhouse gas from Venus to Mars because you could terraform two planets at the same time. Because that would cool down Venus, and Venus would cool. And anyway it goes, Venus is going to be hotter because it's at the beginning of the inhabitable zone. So its days normally will be around 100, we're at 104, 105. You're like living in a Mojave, something like that. But if you're born there, you'd be used to that. So, and on Mars, it'd be a little cooler. You wouldn't have to be as strong. On Venus, though, you'd be basically the same size as us, same strength as us. You'd just be much better suited for heat. I wouldn't be very well suited to cold.
Right.
So, unless the planet just sat there, and then that might be different. Have a day and night. That would suck. You got to go to bed. You got to go all the way on the other side of the planet.
Right.
You're like, get the hell out of here. I'm just teasing you. But we do have those three planets inside its inhabitable zone, and they do look like at one time they all had life. The reason we know this about Venus, we're pretty sure Mars does now from some of the stuff we found, but Venus, one of the very first probes that went to Venus found out that its upper atmosphere is identical to Earth's, which means at one time it evolved like we did. Better than that, though, they found particles of matter inside the atmosphere, which suggested life of some kind. They even thought maybe there was some type of life in the clouds there that was living there. Nobody knows for sure. We've only ever had two probes there, I think. These are all interesting things, but right now Venus is 800 degrees. We don't want to go there. I guess we could take Pluto and take an ice shelf off and float it over Venus and cool it off. We don't have this kind of technology yet. This isn't Star Trek era.
If you think about how much money is going into space exploration and contact and flight and everything that's involved with it, even the space station, I mean, everything. Getting to space, big business, very expensive. We talk about how life here on the planet, isn't sustainable. Like we just don't have enough space. We don't have enough resources, but we haven't really explored our planet. We really haven't. We've explored some parts of the planet, but would we not be better off? Wouldn't it be less expensive to do just that and explore our own planet and make it more viable for everybody?
We've kind of mapped the whole planet now, and there
Deep
are
sea
things.
exploration.
There's still good. There's still chunks of the deep sea that hasn't been explored. There's still some deep parts of the Amazon that you could probably say were still in. But there might be a couple of places deep in Africa that somebody's been there, but not anytime recently. So it's there's still these places, but they're not places that you want to live, or I want to live, or any other civilized person
Do you want
wants
to go
to
live
live.
on Mars, Joe? Is that what it is?
Oh shit! I'd move to Mars tomorrow.
Really?
Well, hell yeah, because your view is much more unobstructed there. So if you were looking for like objects in space
Hmm.
or other inhabited worlds, your view from there would be much better than it is from here.
Hmm.
And none, there won't be no pollution in the atmosphere. There will be a very thin little atmosphere to look through. Yes, unobstructed views, naked views of the skies, people. I know kinky astronomy going on there. It's there's a lot of big pluses to Mars.
Hmm.
One, for someone my age, if I moved there, would probably add 15 or 20 years to my life
Hmm.
because all my, gravity is one of the things that's killing us. Pushing down on your body, pulling on your body, pulling on your heart, pulling on every organ you have in your body. Well, that would stop on Mars.
Hmm.
Your heart wouldn't have to work as hard, not near as hard. Everything would be easier, and you're actually automatically stronger there because it's only 1/3 G.
Hmm.
So you're 2/3 stronger than you are here. It's a bad way of doing it, but still. You can jump instead of having stairs. You would just jump from the first floor to the second floor.
Hmm.
Just kind of whoop and get up on your stairs. You wouldn't need stairs. Or you'd have a pull one, but maybe two pulls and just pull yourself up and you'd be up there. So it's a different, yeah, it would be a little bit different. The only real downsides to Mars is there's no, the sucky part is there's no atmosphere, but that's not what bothers me. The no pressure is because you have to wear a suit. If they had pressure on Mars and all you have to wear is a mask for your oxygen, you could run around like it's normal.
Hmm.
They can do that just by doing greenhouse effect. Humans have learned how to do greenhouse very well now, so we can apply what we've learned to Mars. All we'd have to do is send over 5 or 6 or 7 big carbon chewing machines, or build them there for that matter. All they would do is scoop up dirt and burn it, basically. They could make their own fuel there. They could get the dirt there. They could get everything they need, and that would create a heavy, thick mist in the atmosphere. Would lower the pressure or raise the pressure,
Hmm.
so that we would have to have mass. We wouldn't have any atmosphere to breathe. That would have to come later on. But that would
Hmm.
be the first stage, and it would also help to melt the ice caps on both ends to start to release oxygen back into the atmosphere.
Hmm.
Because there is some there now. This is not enough. So it could
Hmm.
be terrifying. It's not quite that easy, ladies and gentlemen, but it could be terrifying.
Hmm.
Yes.
I tend to, I tend to think that a lot of this is a prequel of things to come. Being more forthcoming. You look at Moultrie basically saying, okay, you have our commitment. We're going to work closely with the Director of National Intelligence, make sure we give you whatever information we can, unless the information, of course, shows that there is a risk to the American people. Because this, just for those who aren't realizing, or maybe from other parts of the world, we're talking about the U.S. Congressional meeting here. This isn't like a worldwide thing, just to be clear. Because once you're used to seeing things in the sky that could be your military, your Pentagon that are watching for infiltrations from other countries, which I completely understand. We are at war, on the other side of the world. There is a war going on. We don't want, somebody coming up to our doorsteps in the U.S. Absolutely. But once you kind of get conditioned to seeing all these things in the sky, next thing you know, it's kind of reminding me of the 1984 Orwell book,
Oh
the whole
shit.
big brother thing, and you got these drones coming up to you, scanning you, and it's just like, holy crap, you know, I don't know, like, like we're getting, false flags, so to speak, but I don't know, is this just as like a prequel to what's coming and what we should all be getting used to? Because let's face it, you know, governments and militaries don't want to tell you anything. All of a sudden, they're ready to tell you. It'll be selective information, I'm sure.
It could be just a political thing trying to garner votes for their party.
Ah, there we go. There's another
You know,
one.
I mean, I don't know how many votes it would get. I mean, I would think a good chunk of the people in the field anyway are liberal, so I'm not sure if it would make a real difference. But
Hmm.
hey, you never know. It could be a desperate attempt to
Well,
garner
maybe the current,
votes.
president needs all the help he can get. So let's just throw
It's
something on here. I don't know.
for this is a no lose situation for the Pentagon. All this is another way. This is just going to be another Project Signs, another Project Grudge,
There we
another
go, Bubbles.
Project Blue Book.
Monkeypox.
That's exactly what this is going to be. It's not going to be any different than that. There's no reason for it to be any different than that. They
Yep.
go out, they're going to probably put some teams together, and go out and get a look at stuff, and then see, because if they were serious, they would look for people like myself or people in the field like me, or even out of MUFON, and let them go investigate. But that's not what they're going to do. They're going to send somebody out. They're going to put their own UFO teams together, and they're going to go out and look and say, oh, well, that was, like I said, oh, well, that was a balloon. Oh, no, that was a drone. Oh, that was some kid's light up frisbee, or was it something weather related?
Right.
Or maybe it was, because it was like in one of the coastal areas, maybe it was a foreign plane of some kind. But they don't, for them, and even if somebody finds something legit, they're not going to so much want to tell you, because what you're going to do, you're going to go tell everybody you know.
Right.
What is that going to do? Because the problem for America is just like the problem is for the rest of the world. How many people in our country will panic? I would think in mostly the Americas that we consider ourselves to be enlightened, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But when I stop and look at just the election cycles in my country for the last 20 years, it'll be a fucking nightmare, is what it'll be.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a biblical nightmare at that. I mean, it'll just be, people will be losing their minds. And of course, since we're all polarized, we'll be polarized on the aliens.
Well,
There's
yeah.
no
I mean,
demons or
even
gods or,
the
it'll be
Vatican has
horrible.
talked about putting a religious team together to work with, the Catholics, let's say. I mean, religions are gearing up to get their people ready and give them counseling, from a spiritual standpoint, if that happens. So, there are precautions, I guess, considerations being put in place for this sort of thing. And if you're thinking, is it, like a voting thing? Is it, that could very well be. It's a big one if it is. But I'm thinking, would people care? I don't know. You and I in the gray zone have talked about, military abductions. We've talked about abductions and all kinds of things. There's all kinds of stuff out there that's been going on for many, many decades. This is just maybe another level. I mean, nobody's going to come clean any way you look at it. Military is never going to come up and say, "Yep, we did it," but and the aliens aren't going to come up and say, "Yep, we did
Well,
it."
I'm actually hoping we don't have to wait for any of them. I'm hoping as privatized, if we get into space,
Yeah,
one of these people will find something, or we'll run into something, or we'll find something on an asteroid.
yeah.
If the, because everybody always says, oh well, the asteroid belt was a planet that didn't form, but recently they found some materials that can really only be formed under a very heavy mass, like
Hmm.
a planet forming. So they may have been wrong. It may have been a planet at one time, and they do estimate about 5 times the size of Earth.
Right.
Of course, the Nebrubians would love it. That would be Neru, but of course, that wouldn't be every 3,600 years. It'd just be orbiting like everybody else did.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever it is, the asteroid belt is full of minerals. It would make countries like China and even America or any country that could get there, it would make them mineral rich and mineral independent. And we will probably find new stuff for the periodic table there as well. So this is a gold mine or a platinum mine, whatever you want to call it, a lithium mine, all combined for everybody who can get there. And that's where we're headed. We're headed there. We don't know what we're going to find on Mars. If Mars was an inhabited planet at one time, they may not have as many minerals. But if
Mm.
they were just a developed planet, they may have gold there. They may have diamonds. Look at Olympus Mons. Do you realize there can be diamonds in there the size of Volkswagens because
Mm.
it's so big? And we know there's going to be diamonds there because it's a volcano, and we know how
Mm.
diamonds are formed. So there's going to be some there somewhere, or along with the chain. So, do you know how much a Martian diamond will be worth on Earth? I mean, really, this thing came from Mars. You don't even know what kind of weird color it's going to have.
Well, you might want to go to Mars because the way things are going with this whole, now we have a task force and now we're concerned and all these drones, the future flying cars, I think, are going to be a risk. I don't think they're going to want even more people in the air just to confuse things, you
Well,
know?
I was hearing yesterday that Biden's thought police is trying to get Trudeau to do thought police. What the hell? First of all, even Bill Maher lost his mind over thought police. And if y'all know who Bill Maher
Right.
is, he does a comedy show on HBO. But
Mm.
he's very very liberal. I love what he said though. He told his party, he said, I haven't changed. He said, I'm still liberal. Y'all have changed. He said, I'm still the exact same person I've always been. He said, y'all have just gone lefty crazy. Elon Musk also said that. He said, I haven't changed, y'all have changed. He said, I still have the same political views. He said, y'all have just gone over the edge. And then when you have people like these three guys, like Jeff Bezos, who's another very liberal man, saying your party's lost it, you're in trouble. So, ET's a good distraction.
It
It's
is
a
a
good
good
distraction
distraction.
for what's going on right now. Bad economy, high gas price. I filled up my little bitty car today. It cost me $50. Yes,
Oh,
people
I
can
can't
live
even.
off
I
that.
can't even talk about the cost of fuel right
I'm
now.
scared to even go
I can't
charge
get
it on my
over it.
truck.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to cost. It's going to be $350.
Hmm.
Uh, maybe 400. I mean, come on! I should have to put 400 in my F-150 to go to work. That's just insanity, man.
Oh yeah.
But still, if
There we go.
ET could come do something about that, I'd be real happy.
As Bubble says, extremist seems to be alive in all aspects of our lives, religion, politics, etc. Oh yeah,
Exactly
absolutely.
my point, and that's
Yeah.
why ET can't be introduced at this time.
Yeah.
Because we're going to polarize ET. We're just going to take sides and say ET's here for that and ET's this, and ET's not even going to get a chance to say anything before we're trying to blow them off the planet because we don't know what the hell they're here for.
Hmm.
I don't personally understand why humans are the way we are, why we can be so brilliant independently and so stupid as a group. And why do we follow things like the news medias and stuff like that? Why don't we make our own decision? I don't even know what to think about that. But if you want to be an advanced extraterrestrial race, I would imagine that is a precursor. Knowing, what to do, what's the right thing to do, and doing it.
Mm. Mm.
And at this point in our society, I can't say that's where we are. I mean, if tomorrow someone was to say, "Hey, we've got a live alien," I think half of America would freak out. I think half of Asia, I mean, half of South America would freak out. I think half of Canada would freak out. I think half of Europe would freak out. I think three-quarters of India and China would freak out. Almost all of Russia would freak out. A good chunk of the rest of the Asian world would freak out. Even Australia would probably freak out. And
Hmm.
I mean half, and even the half that didn't freak out in Europe and the United States and in America, still they're going to be uneasy because all of a sudden there's extraterrestrials. Just another variable in our already insane lives.
It seems to go like you have two groups. You have the people who feel really moved, like they have like these big spiritual, like, oh my gosh, when they see a UFO, they're just like in awe. And then if you go by a lot of the videos that we have shared on the Gray Zone, you have people absolute mass hysteria. Then you have the occasion, you have the ones in between who are like indifferent. They believe or they don't believe. You know what I mean? They're just completely indifferent. So you have the real, oh my God, you have the freaking mass hysterics, and then you've got the, yeah, whatever. Like
Well, I don't
it's
know. I just don't feel comfortable with the world knowing about ET at the moment. It's,
right.
I think it would be almost as bad as telling the asteroids about to kill us. I don't think. I mean, there'd be people out there with signs and people
Mm.
wanting to shoot the ETs and then wanting to shoot the people who back the ETs. It's
It's
just
all extreme, though. All of it.
well, I don't know. Got like that. Wasn't like that when I was young. It wasn't even like that when I was in my 20s and 30s. This is something that's
It's
this
just,
started the polarization of this country, and I can't speak for everybody else.
yeah.
Started just right around the end of Bush and the beginning of Obama. And I'm not even saying they caused it. It just seemed to be that's when it started.
Well, I
It's
mean, how many times have we talked about ancient cultures who were completely at ease with with they call them, they're friends from the stars. I mean, you go back to Gnostic times, they talked about this. You go back to all these different cultures and you look at all the petroglyphs that are out there. You look at, there's so much information. I mean, technically there's information in the Bible if you really want to get technical. Oh, there's a little girl. It's
my gray. Yeah, it's
cutie.
not Blackie. Yeah, she's an alien.
She's like, I don't
She's
have
a
to go like
hatchling.
this. You
Say hi,
know,
I'm a hatchling.
Lola. So we, oh, so you,
Somebody wants her. She don't want to go to her mom. And they're like, no, no, I'm safe, Dad.
so, I mean, this was all something that was normal at one time, like for many ancient cultures, for pre-ice age, post-ice age, and then somewhere along the lines, it became not acceptable. Then it became you have to fear it. Now we're at a point, like you say, we're sitting here thinking like people living in fear of it. What do you think is the cause? Like maybe the Pentagon, this
Don't
task
ask me
force,
that question. You'll
maybe
just
they're
get
going
me
to
in
take the
trouble.
fear out of it, or maybe they're going to put the fear in it. It's hard to say.
I think they can do both.
Yeah.
Like I told you earlier, they're going to play both sides of the fence because it's their fence.
Yeah.
It's like playing tennis with yourself.
Right. There we
It's
go.
you can't lose on that. You can't really lose on that hedge bet. I mean, they hedge their bets.
Yeah. Zachman says, if ET introduced themselves publicly to the world, I'd be more concerned if these ETs are really serving an ulterior agenda and that their introduction was intentionally staged by elites. See this? There's
Well,
just too much out
it
there.
could be intention stage, but you got to watch that
Yeah.
because right now most of the world is going to think Independence Day if a couple of UFOs show up. So that's the problem here. We've spun ourselves into a corner as humans. We have to kind of chill out. The elites would love to try to do a false flag event, but they're scared of the repercussions. Because you got to remember, they don't really control the full military, and if people were to freak out, they would have a hard time getting them back in control, especially if it wasn't just here, if it was a worldwide event. We already seen what COVID did, and that's what most of the world are trying to behave themselves. And still, a third of them freaked out. This is one of these things. It's unfortunate, but
there's
as a society, we're just not ready. I want us to be ready. And let me tell you what: when I was 20, I would have argued my ass off until I fell off the couch that we were ready. But at 60, 59, no, we're not ready, guys. I'm sorry. We just. I want us to be because I was hoping we'd be in my lifetime.
But you got this whole
It's getting worse.
CE5 movement happening. There are a lot of people who I think are ready. The problem is,
what do you think the percentage is? 3%, 5%?
Yeah, hard to say. Hard to say. It would be
It's
interesting
no
to
more
do
than 5%.
it would be nice to see a legitimate poll done on that, not one that's controlled by mainstream media. Just an organization, maybe ICAR, a legitimate organization that can do a poll to see what people's thoughts are, and are they ready? Aren't they ready? Because I'll tell you, I think there's a degree of people who are that don't fear it, but those are probably the same people that don't hang on the words of mainstream media or, again, governments, but yet they're not conspiracy theorists either. I think they're people who are on the fence with everything.
The last poll we actually done a couple of these over the years. The last one we done, which is probably 7 or 8 years ago, was with 15,000 people. 3% maybe, I think it was 3.5% were ready for ET. Now, it's the poll is kind of a little misleading because if you ask, the first question was, do you think aliens exist in the universe? Like 78% said yes.
Right.
Do you think aliens are visiting Earth? Sharply dropped down to about 25%. And I was even surprised how high that was. And I think that was a little misleading. But when you asked, are they here, or if we're ready for them to be here, either one of the questions were less than 4%. And that's just because
people fear the unknown. People fear the unknown. So maybe if it's not something that's unknown, maybe it's easier to accept something that you see more often. Like, see, that's another thing. If people start seeing even military reverse engineered crafts in the atmosphere and all these drones and things like that, they may become so conditioned to seeing them that they may not be bothered by them after a while.
I got a question for you. No, it's not a racial question. It is a question. So, how long did you think it took the Europeans to get used to the first black man they seen walking around Europe? And we're talking back in Roman and Greek times, because this is how far back this goes. How long did you think it took them to get used to it? Because remember, there's still racists even today there. So.
Oh no, it's true. It's a loaded question. It's almost like saying, did the Aztecs, Mayans, and the Incas ever accept the Spanish coming in and
No, and they never did. That's the thing.
No, of course not. But it was mass genocide too, though, right? Like
it was. So the problem here is if we haven't even been able to reconcile amongst ourselves, and we want to add an alien race, now that would help. One thing, it would help us reconcile amongst ourselves a lot faster. Right. Because just like wars do in America, America can be all kind of a crazy ass country. We get into a war, all of a sudden we want a big happy family. We just everybody starts working together. We become one big family because we don't want to get killed or get taken over. We don't want our women getting raped and stuff. So we become one massive killing machine. I hate saying it that way, but it's true. So.
Well, then you become more like a human race, people like earthlings, because now it's humanity against.
Yeah,
Is
it's
what you're
aggressive.
saying.
But it's going to
Right.
take us time, and there's going to be, unfortunately, racism towards aliens. And then some people are going to think they're better than us. Some people are going to think they're beneath us. A lot of people are going to think they're like demons sent from hell that are tricking us. I can't even, that's like a third of the population, Muslims, Jews, and Christians will be saying that one. They were demons sent from the underworld.
So I'm going to do a quick station ID because my boss is a hard ass, so I have to say it.
Yeah, she is that alien.
And then I'm going to have a question for you. So for those just tuning in, you're listening to The Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Drochet, and Amelia Pisano, who is in chat tonight. And our special guest is, of course, our dear friend and producer and owner of United Public Radio Network, Joe Montaldo. So,
good.
And we are talking about the Congressional UFO hearing in the United States from Tuesday, and false flags, research, outer space, you name it. We're talking about it. And it's a very interesting conversation, a lot of different perceptions. So yeah, I think that's I'm thinking my brain gets ahead of me and I end up with more questions. But anyway, we are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who we love and appreciate everything you do for us. So thank you. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker, for his generous contribution to our show.
This guy's name, I get hungry. You got to quit this.
I don't know. Of our intro and our outro.
I'm thinking Snicker bar, man. Y'all gotta quit
here we go. I'll have to put it up because, Dr. Snick and Folgers, we love you. Muchly so. There we go. Bubble's still putting it out there even though she's not here. I love it.
In fact, I've been drinking black silk the entire night. By 11 o'clock, I'll be like, yeah.
Whatever.
I'll be like, yeah. So, it's good coffee, people.
Okay, so here's a question. Let's just hypothetically say the world is ready. The world is ready. Do you think that, because there's a lot of races of ET that you could coexist with, and there's some that not really, that maybe you're food to them or something, or maybe they just want to step into your body, or who knows. I'm just pulling out a lot of different things right now to show that we're dealing with these far superior beings, right? It's that simple. Do you think it can be done? Do you think we can coexist? Some people are ready to get on a ship and get just right off the planet if hell goes.
And some of them will go, and a lot of people will leave this planet, and a lot will stay behind when we finally get in space. And we may be in space long before we meet ET on a face-to-face basis. As far as ET is concerned, we're not ready to meet anybody, any councils, any of the United Worlds or planets. We're just not ready for that. Even when we get into deep space, we're not going to be ready for that. Mm-hmm. First off, we have to become a united planet to even be considered, and we're nowhere near that. What do you think China or America is going to give up its slice of the pie to become a one-world planet? What is it going to take for that? Mm-hmm. Or we're just going to get into space as, like in a lot of sci-fi, as different countries.
So what do you think needs to happen here to get to that point?
Somehow there has to be a one-world government formed, which is a lot of the crazy people think is a no-no, but we can't survive without it, because we can't have the Chinese and the Japanese and the Americans and the Russians getting into fights in space. That might inadvertently start an interstellar war with some advanced alien race by accident because we crashed into one of their buildings or something. We need to be, before we get into deep space, we need to be a united race. And if we're really going to explore space for real in our solar system and get out to Proxima and places which we have the technology to do, we have to get united on a different level than we are today. And Xi Jinping would like to, but he don't want to give up his communism. If China was a democracy, the world could probably operate under the UN. It'd be a different strategy in the UN. You could have like your 4 primary seats or your 5 primary seats, and then the rest of the UN. And we could probably be one nation. we could turn over the military to the United Nations itself, because there'd be no if nobody was fighting, there'd be no need for a military other than for police keeping if they
Hmm.
want for an invasion or some shit. But there would be no real. It would be these police. So
I
I mean,
think
it's
combined
all
financial
doable.
resources could
Lots of
really,
research, and it's more
yeah.
than that. Think if all the scientists in the world were working together. So all
Hmm.
the cancer researchers were working with each other.
Hmm.
Things would happen a lot faster. You know, but we're not there yet, and I
Hmm.
don't see it not anytime soon. These leaders are going to be like this for another 20 or 30 years, and whoever steps in is going to be real close. I mean, we're talking 500 years in the future.
Hmm.
There may be a change, and that's when we either get to a point where the planet's a catastrophe and we have to work it out and be together, or one of us just finally invents a weapon that can take the rest out.
Hmm.
And either
Right.
way, it's going to happen. It just is it going to happen with a planet, and is it going to happen in a way that we don't end up having a planet that has to rehab itself for a half a million
I
years?
think people fear it because it's just one world government to many people. I agree that we should have one world government, one currency. It would probably be helpful because right now you have a lot of countries that are suffering and others that are thriving just because of currency. So if everything was a more even keel, yeah, I think it would be a good thing moving forward. However, a lot of people believe one world government is with one person at the helm, it can be very, very dangerous. We've been misled as to what one world government actually is and
Well,
how
one
it
world government in
operates.
this case would be each country would be still in charge of itself. It just wouldn't have military anymore.
Right.
Everybody would have to abide by a certain type of rules, a certain type of democracy or republic,
Hmm.
whatever it may be. Everybody have to agree on it, and that's
Hmm.
just the way it would work. And
Right.
in any kind of disasters or any kind of peacekeeping, it would be automatic. There'd already be this much stuff because each country would have to put up each year, and then if something happened, each one would have to give out X amount of technology and people. So it would be we'd all be sharing technology. Everything would be moving at a much faster rate. So they pretty much prove that religion, which regardless what religion you may be, set us back at least 2,000 years. Stuff like the burning of the Library of Alexandria probably set us back 1,000 years.
Hmm.
The stuff we lost at that library is irretrievable. It's the stuff that was under the Sphinx is gone. It's all of that stuff is stuff. These were great libraries that now no longer exist. Not including how many were destroyed in other wars along the ways. The stuff in Europe that was destroyed in World War II. It's just we're our own worst enemy, and then religion is preaching that technology is bad and evil. So it makes it hard, people for come on, look at Leonardo and Michelangelo. I mean, they risked being hung or put on the rack for what they believed.
Hmm.
It's science, and if they could have been
Galileo,
allowed, yeah, if
remember
they could have
him?
been allowed, yeah, if they
Yeah.
could have been left alive to openly do what they wanted and collaborate,
Hmm.
they would have brought us 500 years more into the future.
Hmm.
I mean, Leonardo alone, but then you've got what's his name, the one that predicted everybody,
Nostradamus.
Notre Dame,
Yeah.
him as well. So you've got great people that were back in the time that were changing the way we looked at science, but of course were heretics and could be burned or stretched or racked or whatever.
But
So
see,
I mean,
that's what I'm
they kept
saying.
back on a lot of the stuff.
You have this big organization at the time, all the people you mentioned, like Galileo, Da Vinci, Nostradamus. These are people that were pretty much ruled by, the church at the time was
Oh yeah.
really had a
So
firm hand
think
in
think
that.
about today if all the countries were just like America, and I don't mean that in the way we rule, but as the way we share technology inside of our country.
Yeah.
So we got Elon Musk, and what before we just talked about just a little while ago in the space program. So just think about all the rest of these people on our planet who could be working with these four.
Hmm.
We could be in deep space in less than a decade. Hell,
Imagine
we
if
might even
Tesla had
break.
been allowed to keep doing what
That's
he
what
was
I'm
doing.
saying. We may break light speed or worm tech in
Mm-hmm.
2 decades if we let everybody work together. But no, it's like the
Mm-hmm.
pharmacy companies. If you took that away from them and put that into a group of doctors, a group of doctors from around the world, I guarantee they'd cure cancer in less than a decade
Mm-hmm.
completely. They'd probably cure a lot of other things completely.
Right.
But they don't want to go there.
Right. Right.
You
I,
know,
I,
it-
I agree with you. I think it's a point where it's a lot of reframing that needs to happen, and I think it's difficult right now. We're all trying to just recover from a pandemic over the last couple of years, and it's created so much division. And is it the people who've created division, or is it the governments that have
It's the
created the
government and the
division?
media that's created the
Right.
because
So,
you can go back, like I said, you can go back to
yeah,
Ronald Reagan and Bill
yeah,
Clinton in this country. We were
mm,
united. Bill Clinton, both sides worked together. They got a lot done.
yeah,
Under
yeah,
Reagan, both sides worked together and they got a lot done. Now they always hate each other like usual, but the countries were moving forward under both those presidents. Made
right.
great strides. One was a Democrat, one was a Republican. No
Hmm.
big deal. Then all of a sudden, you know, Clinton leaves, and then we get who we got? Baby Bush. And Baby Bush was, I don't want to get into politics, but he had Darth Cheney working for him, so maybe Darth Cheney might know about aliens. Him and Daddy Bush might have both known about aliens. It
Hmm.
was something I know. Daddy Bush did. I don't know if Darth Cheney did or not. Darth Cheney is Vice President Cheney. If anybody wants to know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So right or somewhere around 6 years into his term, maybe 7 years in, the country started getting divisive, and then Obama came along and it got more divisive. And then by Obama's second term, we hated each other. And then, of course, here comes Trump, and Trump just like drives a stake right in everybody's heart, and we hate each other that much more. Now we've got, well, I can't remember this guy's name, and it's even worse.
Hmm.
And so we need a uniter. We need a war where you need a uniter, which we don't seem to have either one. So if
Hmm.
we can't, as a nation, as one of the greatest nations to ever exist on this planet, can't seem to get it together, shit, we're going to end up like the Romans, and we're going to take the world with us when we go.
Hmm.
So how do
So
you
we
fix
have
that?
to basically learn how to work together and how to we have to play nice in the schoolyard, basically,
Well, because
to be
we got
able to
to
keep evolving.
we've got, and this might be why the government really wants to know about aliens, because aliens could be the great uniter. Clinton said this in 7 different speeches he gave,
Hmm.
and aliens could be the great uniter because if we could prove the existence of extraterrestrials, a lot of the countries might start working together for protection because we don't know what these ETs are here for, what they're doing, or what kind of technologies they have. And as a world, we need to feel protected and safe. So
Well,
that could drive us into one.
some pretty big people talked about aliens. I mean, if you remember, even there was even the FBI who had the memorandum 67, 50, or 51 or something like
But
that.
they always say
They spoke about it.
UFOs,
Paul
gaps of
Hillier,
UFOs.
the ex-Canadian military,
Yeah, I
are
don't know why Paul Hillier was not considered a credible witness. I never understood that. I talked to him about 4 times.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know, he for some reason, and I never checked into him that hard because I'm not a Canadian, so what do I know about Paul Hillier other than
for those who
he
don't
works
know,
for us?
he was our ex because he's deceased now, but retired defense minister in Canada, and he was very very active in telling and talking about extraterrestrials. In fact, a lot of ex-military people have come forward, astronauts, and they
Yes,
all have these experiences
the two
and
of us
this
talked
knowledge.
about Shag Harbor.
No, you know what I mean?
Well, I got him to verify about the 2 submarines that were seen. There was a group of divers that had reported work in Shag Harbor, and I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with Shag Harbor. It's a very famous UFO case. But for some people, or not because it happened in Shag Harbor in Canada. And
Hmm.
actually, kind of Canada squishy towards the United States. But regardless, something went down in the water. A village seen it, and they sent out some fishing boats. And when they got out there, they found this weird white, yellowish, whitish foam all over the top of the water. They thought it was an airplane that crashed. It's originally what it was thought. So they're out there. There's like 9 or 10 boats out there, and they're paddling around looking for survivors. Thinking it was an airplane. Because all of a sudden, this weird glowing thing under the water starts to move towards the mouth, headed out towards the ocean. Well, what it looked like to the villagers is that something came in and kind of pulled it out. But anyway, long story short, this thing went off the coast out there, wherever that is, and sat out there for 7 days while it was being repaired by another UFO. While that was going on, there was a team of Navy divers, who also had some Canadian divers as well, that were monitoring the whole thing. 2 of them got zapped because they got too close, but several of these divers came forward and talked about the event and what they saw. and got sanctioned for it. But still, it was a very convincing story. All the witnesses were very convincing. Everybody who's seen anything was very honest about what they're seeing. They weren't really holding anything back. This was an event that lasted 7 days and was witnessed by probably more than 100 people. And then we also had the dive team. So what happened was, whatever, nobody knows what happened. All they know is it was a UFO of some kind, went down in Shag Harbor, made it out to the ocean, into the Atlantic, and then was serviced by another UFO. A group of people sitting on the shoreline actually seeing the other one come down in the water about a mile offshore and head towards it to pick it up. It was a very interesting thing. And then, of course, there was the divers. And the only reason they got busted is one of the submarines had to surface for some reason. They had issues, two subs down there. They had an issue of some kind. They had to surface for oxygen. And then they might have had a generator issue. And then they went back down. So when somebody seen the sub and then also knew the UFO was there, they put two and two together, and then people started asking around. And the next thing you know, you had divers coming forward. I can't remember who was who because it was a long time ago. Because I was introduced to a couple of divers. And somewhere, guys, on the Wake Up USA and the UFO and the cover shows, there's interviews with the divers, with four of them. And it's very interesting stuff. There's also interviews with Paul Hilliard about it and other things that Paul and I talked about on UFO on the cover. So yeah, go catch all of those too. But he was an interesting character. Just for some reason, people just played, and that's the problem today. That's what's going to happen here. You know, well, I was going to say if Biden came forward, but it wouldn't matter. He came forward. But if somebody legitimate came forward, like Pink Shorts, it might be different. But
that's
the problem. But that's the problem. What world leader would you believe? Would you believe Boris over there with his crazy hairdo, Megan, or whatever his name is, or the guy? I mean, I'm not believe any of these leaders. They're all nuts. So if they tell me aliens exist, I'm gonna be like, oh, maybe you need to check into the local funny farm.
No, but you know what? I mean, if you see it for yourself, I think, Zach and I made a point. It would be hard to, if extraterrestrial came out and they introduced themselves, yeah, we're at a point where we have to question everything. We can't believe everything we see. But with that being said, there's a lot of people having individual experiences. I mean, freaking millions of people having individual experiences with extraterrestrials. They're having contact, they're having experience, like they're experiencers or abductees or whatever the case may be. There's a lot out there, and people are saying, no, these things are definitely real. Now, media has definitely, played a part in making it really scary. There have been other, researcher and ufologists who have basically said, no, you don't have to fear. But I don't know. Maybe that's what you need, is somebody just to come down very benign, be very benign species or race to come down and say, no, we do come in peace. We are.
And they will kill him and eat him. What is wrong with you?
If you're reptilian,
have you never
maybe.
watched?
Oh, you mean you guys would
TV?
kill him and eat him?
No,
oh, no,
I'm
you
talking
can't
about
be walking around you.
People in India and China are starving.
Out comes Martha. Boom. Down.
I'm just saying, India and China and South America, people are starving to death. You can't be no benign aliens walking around here, especially if you look like food. Oh my God, we'd be eating them for sure. It's hey, look, it might be like prime rib or something.
You just have to understand too, with people in different parts of India, they're very, very spiritual.
They are.
But
they're also very, very hungry.
And the Buddhists, and there's a lot of people
who
are.
And I've seen Buddhists give in to starving bellies. So.
I can't even engage in this right now.
You give me trouble. Just being honest about it.
Just no.
Now, if you really want the aliens to make an impression, come down, cure cancer, give us unlimited free energy, help us defeat our people, help us to unite our planet. Then maybe, if we haven't cooked you and eaten you by then, maybe it might change. But the problem is, there's too many right now that are going to be anti-alien. That's going to be the real problem. How do you control the 4 billion people that are going?
Thanks to mainstream media, thanks to, like, even right now, even this, when they did the preliminary disclosure last year in June, it left a lot of people hanging. But there were a lot of people who were waiting to hear it. And they've been waiting for this congressional hearing because this is a spinoff of that. There were a lot of people waiting to hear it, to say, okay, what are you guys going to say now? Yeah, and a lot of feedback that I heard, even on news agencies that were covering the prelim, they're saying, "Oh, just as we thought, nothing." Right? And now people, they're a little bit like, okay, so at least they're playing ball a little bit. They're going to start disclosing a little bit to the public. This is great. People are happy, even with baby steps. People are happy to get something. It's better than nothing. So they're like, okay, this is good. They want us now to keep our eyes on the skies and start reporting it. Okay, we feel involved. Okay, this is good too, right? The people are becoming a little bit more open minded now, because it's almost like they've been given permission to. For those who felt like they didn't have it or maybe needed it, there's those of us who are like, no, crap that. We see things all the time. But then you have those others who are like, but okay,
So
now this is our duty to do this.
so if Bubbles was to take off her disguise and go walking around DC, what do you think would happen to her? Man, they'd have her up on the table
Bubbles is cute.
immediately
She'd be
trying to
fine.
decide. I'm just saying,
So,
I don't want, she'd have to go all light
not like
beam.
some big old ugly reptilian.
I'm just
you know,
saying, she'd have to go light beam on them or something. Cause,
yeah. No, but
right now, I mean, half our governments won't want to dissect an alien if they got their hands on them.
it's
That's the other
true.
scary
You're
part.
not wrong on that. But that's the thing. Like, even just getting comfortable with UFOs or UAPs, I think right now people feel like, okay, so this is like, especially like really patriotic people, they're gonna be like, okay, this is our duty to do this now. So maybe it's just a matter of getting comfortable with it, and then you can maybe consider going to that next level. Like, okay, well, something's got to be driving it, and if it's not human, then, but will we be told anything? Because, and the hearing says, well, if we don't consider it a threat, if it's not a security threat, we'll divulge it. Okay, so are you just automatically going to assume it or make it a security threat so you don't have to divulge it? Like, these are all
Well,
questions
if it's
people are
something,
asking.
well, if it's something that's top secret, they'll do that. Or if it's something they think might be weird, they might do that.
Mm, yeah,
It's they look. We're looking for ways to get faster technology because
yeah,
unfortunately for us, a lot of our companies sold technology to China, so now they're knocking on our door.
yeah.
Russia might be fading, but they're not. And like Elon Musk said the other day, Americans like to work 4 hours a day, and Chinese work 13 hours a day. So it's a big difference. He meant that as a slight because we used to like to work, but Americans got fat and lazy. That's be another reason for aliens to come around. But what do you think Xi Jinping's going to do when an alien shows up?
Mm,
Especially if they come talk to us first. You might take
mm.
that as a slight disrespect. At the turn of the century before last, when we're pretty sure the human type aliens made contact with the Germans, was probably around 1910, 1909, 1911, somewhere up in there. We feel pretty sure that's what happened before World War One. They were given technology. They were given some type of saucer, and you could tell because between 1911 and 1913, the Germans built 6 prototypes of saucers.
They
And this is
just couldn't
before
get them
Hitler.
going, right?
Yeah, and well, they did weird stuff like they made a tank out of one, and then Hitler in I think it was in 38, 39 also did it. So then in Hitler's book, when it comes, he mentions fair-haired, blue-eyed angels that used to come talk to him about doing genetic experiments. I've never heard of angels talking about genetic experiments. Aliens, on the other hand, might be
Mm.
different. Angels, I'm not so much sure about. I don't know why angels would want you doing genetic experiments on twins. That just doesn't sound very angelic-like to me. So
Mhm.
that sounds more extraterrestrial. Like we already know the human aliens were already kind of pissed because the reptilians interfered with whatever the hell they were doing when they originally got to this planet. Uh, they just interfered. Reptilians felt the need to interfere with whatever slave race they were creating. And again, people remember every human on this planet has a reptilian section in their brain. Without it, we would just basically be we'd be we'd be Joe Biden. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? I mean, we'd be wimpy and whiny. I'm sorry.
Mm.
We would be followers. Maybe
Mm.
we'd be better for us. Maybe because we'd all wouldn't ask why anymore. We'd just go, oh, go plow the field. Okay. I'll go walk off that cliff. Okay. Go make some meat. Okay. Go have some children. Okay. That would be it. Today we'd like, no, you got some damn children. I don't have no damn children. I don't
Of
want that
course, this
nasty
is like
beer.
this
Bring me some
is
whiskey.
this theory, though, right? Like,
We're
nobody knows for
sassy.
sure. We don't know for
Yeah.
sure.
No, we know for sure that we have a reptilian section in our brain. We know for sure it's what makes us who we are. Without it, we're just wimps. We know that's fact. We can't get away from that. It's unfortunate for the scientists that 5,000 years ago someone wrote about it. So it makes science, science, because science knows we have it in our brain, and they try to explain it that we came from reptilians, and that's what's left of it. Well, that wouldn't explain a lot of things, but regardless, the Sumerians talk about how we came to have a reptilian section in our brain 6,000 years before science was even a thing.
So what's determined? We have, it's like the left-sided thinker, the right-sided thinker, right? The emotional side, and then the hunter-gatherer side. Like, it's the whole, men are from Mars, women are from Venus thing. Though the reptilian is the aggressive side, the one that, like you say, the free thinker, the conqueror. What
We
makes
were
it what,
aggressive
what makes
before
it
we had.
reptilian is what I'm saying, I
Well,
guess.
reptilians necessarily don't mean you're aggressive. It just means that
They're
you
pretty darn
can.
aggressive.
No, not really. I mean, reptilians on our own planet, but alligators aren't aggressive unless you screw with them. They just usually go lay out in the sun in the sand, man. Snakes are the same way. They don't bother you unless you get in their way or aggravate them. They
Right.
don't go looking to bite you. Usually, if you get
Mm,
bit by an alligator or snakes, because you dumbass was somewhere that didn't belong.
right.
So it's not quite the way we were taught. And remember,
Right.
until Christ, reptilians were revered on this planet, both by all over the Mediterranean, all over Africa, and all over South America. And even after Christ, they were still revered in South America.
Mhm.
So, and then everybody's got the creation story, like the Adam and Eve story. All these races have it. So
Mm.
obviously, something happened somewhere along the line. There was a need to infuse this reptilian DNA into us. I guess we just become washed out, or bleached out,
Mhm.
or we just didn't have what it takes to survive anymore. Or maybe whoever decided to do this decided that the whoever was here with the Sumerians had too much control and wanted to take. It might have been when before that we might have been just one united species, being a slave race under a more advanced species.
Mhm.
Somewhere along the line, the reptilians decided that, but it tells you they're not violent because they didn't go start a war with these other people. They just inbred us. They bred with us, and we did it. So their
So,
hands were clean. Their hands were cleaning on us. They didn't go
so
kick the humans off their planet. We did.
who's responsible for the negative blood type then? The Greys or the
Probably the Greys.
reptilians?
Probably
Yeah.
the Greys. Mainly, the reason I say the Greys is because it brings so much to us that it would seem like it would have been a more thoughtful species that did it.
But there's
It
different
doesn't
races of
mean it's not.
Greys. Is there a specific race of Grey when you
No,
say that?
Greys are just one species. They're just like the reptilians. There's multiple branches, but they're the same species. They all come from the same homeworld.
Right.
Even though the reptilians over the years, between genetic engineering in different environments. Some of them have gills; they can breathe underneath the water. Some of them have wings. So some of them have different things. Some things have these weird crests on the bottom of the ankles. We have no idea what they're for. Some of them have
Mm.
little glands on the sides, which look like they might be for venom sacs or something. So I'm not sure what that's for either. I've never asked. I didn't want to know. You say, "Hey, reptilian, what's it?" No, you don't want. Some things you just don't want to know. But they
Mhm.
don't really seem to be the aggressors. And if you listen to the Dogon and the Mesoamericans, they weren't violent. They were a agrarian society. They were a laid back society who wanted to see us. They taught actually they taught the Aborigines, but they also taught the Mesoamericans and a lot of the Native Americans how to cook, how to plow, how to plant. When was the best seasons? When was the best time? The reptilians didn't get started hating it until the time of Christ. And I don't even exactly know why, other than the church, when it decided to switch all the holidays from pagan holidays to Christian holidays, must have had something to do with it. Because I've never seen any direct attack from the Catholic Church against reptilians, ever.
Mm.
But somewhere along the line, oh, that's why, because of the serpent. Oh, what a dumbass. Because of the serpent in the Garden of Eve. Okay, never
Well, the
mind.
serpent is just a representation of knowledge.
Well, the serpent was the
If you
reptilian
if
who
you
gave.
research it.
See, that's the point. It's the story. It's the same story in all the cultures. The
Mhm.
reptilian who gave Eve the apple of knowledge. He gave her the knowledge. He made her part reptilian. She gained the knowledge. And remember this: there's something special about reptilians. They have genetic memory. So if they interbreed with somebody, more than likely those children will either have all the genetic memory or part of it.
Mhm.
So they're already born more intelligent than people around them.
Mhm. So what do you say to people who've had experiences, um, being like chased by reptilians, and
I say stop running and let them do what they're going to do.
I mean,
Don't
they
you?
want to eat them.
They're not going to eat them. There hasn't been no
I
cases of
know.
reptilian eating anybody.
How do you
Now,
know?
the humans might eat you. Actually, if anybody's going to eat you, it's going to be them little shrivelly old brown things. We call them the cleanup crew because that's what they do. If there's an accident or a disaster, they go clean it up. And from what I hear, and we ain't even getting it, that's nasty. They're nasty. We did a whole segment on them. They basically thrive on carnage. They are like the vultures of the universe. That's what they do, and they have places where they create food. Anyway,
Well, I remember when we did a gray zone, I found a bunch of information on that, and we did speak about it briefly.
Yeah, the Browns are just that's what they are. We just affectionately call them the cleanup crew because that's what they do. But they're kind of like the Greys in a way, not near as intelligent. About 4 foot, 5 foot tall, kind of squishy looking. They kind of look like the ones on Fire in the Sky, actually. Um, it's kind of weird the way they look. But they really are. That's what they do. I mean, if there's a mess up or a clean up, sometimes they have to deliver stuff and put people back because of something happened. But if there's any kind of real disaster like deaths or things like that, they can clean it up.
So if they're like a cleanup crew, how does the information come forward? Because obviously, like, I'm going to seem like an abductee. I'm just going based on people because you have ICAR, right? Without getting into all of ICAR, but so abductees will get hypnotized, or they may have memories of it. But if these guys are a cleanup crew, who sees them? Because it sounds to me like they come around, there's nobody left.
A lot of times it's not. But so you know this, and this is considered abduction criteria. I'm going to go ahead and let it out.
Yeah.
So for the Greys, a death is offensive. It offends them because they don't die. And technically, they're not immortal because they can be killed. But since they can upload their consciousness to another body, they are immortal in fact.
Right.
So to them, death is offensive, and they don't want to see it. So that's what the cleanup crews are. Apparently, neither do the reptilians and humans because they use the same crew to clean up. So that tells you right there, people are reptilians aren't eating this up. It sounds like a lot of the reptilians are vegans. Not all of them. Remember, the reptilians have a caste system. I can't remember if it's 7 or 9 castes. I know things like a religious caste, a warrior caste, things like that. But they do have a one religion. Everybody on their planet is all involved in the same religion or in their colonies. Because if I understand correctly, they have a home world, but they have several colonies. Yeah, some people say up to 100. I don't know how true it is or not. But we know the Draco system, they have like 4 planets there, and they're all lizards, and they're not from there originally. They weren't from here originally. They just came here because it's a beautiful planet for being a reptile. So, and then I hate to say that because they're not even actually reptiles because they're warm blooded. Most people say when they touch them, they feel like warm suede with the ripples on their skin. Because we think they look like scales, but when people touch them, they say they're not scales. And we also know that the different colors represent the different family lines. Yeah, there's several different colors, by the way. And then they could be multicolors, which means it's a mixed family line or something. So somehow or another, when you breed with another one, that's the color that comes out. But if there's 2 breed with an interracial thing, is what they would consider, then it's more like a rainbow effect. That's a good thing, Bubbles. The silver gray. Bubbles, the silver gray.
Well,
blue gray. Okay, we'll go with the blue gray. Okay.
Well, it's interesting.
Somebody.
It's interesting. I'm hoping that we'll be able to,
I don't know why they always
want
to make the reptilians so evil. Just because there's a few crocodiles that like to eat people in the Egyptian, river.
You know what? It's just a lot of different, like, yourself doing radio. It's different for you because you deal on a much larger scale because of the organization. And, for me, I just have a lot of people who reach out to tell stories because they either want to be on the show or they've written books or.
There's a natural fear of it. It's
no, but people actually have had experiences, and is it a natural fear? For sure. But, when you have somebody say, oh, no, I was chased and they tried to freaking eat me, I'm just like, oh, that sounds a little bit serious.
I've actually eat crocodile. I mean, it's, it's I've had what we would consider not positive reptilian experiences, but they're usually more to deal with things like sexual contact or certain types of experiments they want to do. Has more to do with that. I've
So
never heard
they
anybody
do,
being
yeah.
gnawed on.
See, Lisa Savoy, who's in chat tonight and was on the show a few weeks ago, she did say that there were reptilians involved in her abduction and it was not pleasant. And Grace. So,
Well, the reptilians, if you belong to their family line, then you're part of them. So they have a thing. The alphas, male or females, can just pick whoever they want and do whatever they want, and there's really no objection. There's not much you can do. The only way you can stop it is if you mentally object, and I mean you got seriously mentally object, and they might stop. But usually most humans don't have enough strength to do it.
right.
No, they're not keto friendly. They like using some bread between their meat there.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess this is one of those things that unless, there's a disclosure to the point where people can freely, speak about this. And I mean, I think it's
I
starting,
don't know
but
what
it's
kind of
very elusive
disclosure.
topics.
Well, once we say if they find another ruin on Mars, that'll help. That'll get us thinking. All right, there is life out there, but whatever was on Mars is long dead. We don't have to worry about it coming and killing us. So we don't want to be panicking. And then maybe a year or two, 5 years down the line, we find some type of vegetation, some liquid water under the surface of Mars with some vegetation growing in it, and maybe even some kind of little microbes or insects, or maybe even a little swamp rat or something. And we
Mhm.
find that it's still alive. Okay, so this now tells us that yes, there was advanced life here one time, but it's gone. But there still is some type of alien life, but nothing that's threatening us. So that gives us time to explore our solar system without feeling threatened by extraterrestrial. And then maybe we'll find some other ruins and some other life. We're definitely going to find life in Europa. There's probably some big ass damn whales underneath the water. I don't even doubt that. I know there's one clip of one of the probes there, and you see something move under the ice, and whatever it is, it's big. It looks bigger than a whale, whatever it was.
Mhm.
So I have no doubt they're going to find life there. And most scientists agree they're going to find life there. And a lot of people think they're going to find life somewhere on Mars underground and other places in our solar system. I said this when I started hosting Wake Up View. I figured we'd find 5 or 6 places, maybe even 7 places inside the solar system with some type of life on, including Pluto and maybe even Charon. We just found out Pluto's got an active volcano and has liquid water underneath the ice, which means there could be life living underneath there. And we know
Mm.
what black smoke are on Earth, so there could be life there. So that's the thing. I think we're going to find out that life is the norm, not the abnorm. When it comes to intelligent life, it won't be quite as many times as you'll find life. So probably for every 30 planets you find life on, you'll find one with intelligent life, or maybe even 100. But I guarantee you, life's going to turn out to be the norm, not the abnormal. Any solar system with this many planetary bodies in it is going to find life in a bunch of
Mhm.
them. So, knowing this, knowing that the universe or our galaxy is full of planets, our solar system is got quite a few. It's got over 100 bodies in it, I think. So there's 8 planets, and then there's the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. I think there's 100 of them all together. There's a lot of stuff to look at. And then there's all the Oort cloud and the asteroid belt. There's a lot of stuff to look at. We're going to find life. And then, next thing we know, we'll be in Proxima Centauri, which is only 3.8 light years away.
Mm.
And then we'll probably find life in some of their planetary bodies.
Mhm.
As far as finding real intelligent life, it depends where we're looking. I have no doubt it's out there, and I have no doubt there's life out there, same evolution as we are, below us and above us.
Mhm.
It's who are we going to find first? Then how are we going to treat them? Are we going to make the same mistakes we did when we went to Africa and to South America, or are we going to learn from our mistakes and do it quietly and covertly, and learn about the people and leave them alone until they advance more?
Mhm.
And you know what? If there's nothing there we want, we'll probably leave them alone. If there's something there we want, guess what? We'll be on their planet, teaching them how to be more advanced creatures in the universe.
Mhm.
Just like we did for everybody else on the planet. We didn't do that great of a job, by the way, but hey, we did, bring people from, well, I can't even say that. There's still people on the planet that live in huts and
Mm.
fish by hand, so I guess I shouldn't say that.
No, maybe we should just leave that right there so we don't get ourselves into any trouble. But
Well, I can't help it. I did not make the plan, and I did not make the politics. I can't help it.
no, you did
Think
not.
about it. We have people that are living like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and people like this living at the height of everything, money,
Right.
power, technology, and we still have people both in Africa, Asia, and South America that still live in hunts, still fish with spears, don't have
Mm,
any radio, no TV, but do wear American T-shirts, which I find odd. But other than that, they're just still the way
mhm.
they were 1,000 years ago. It's
Right.
spooky weird. And
Right.
I don't mean we should upset their life. I'm kind of against that, but still, when we
Mhm.
get off world, all we're going to do that. I mean, oil, uranium, whatever
Mhm.
other minerals we find, diamonds, gold, platinum,
There
things
we
we've never
go.
heard of. All we're
There
doing is
we
just be
go.
nice and say hi, no, because Michelle be out there going, oh, I like that colored diamond. Then you got to get that damn thing for me.
Only black ones.
Yeah, when you see this weird bluish
I've
black
got a
gold, that's
beautiful
what we
black
see.
5 carat black diamond. I love it. That's my favorite.
That's good if we ever get locked in prison. You can use it to cut us out.
Yeah, brownie points. Get some smokes. Even though I
Cut
don't
that damn
smoke.
glass out of there.
I know.
Um,
There we go. I should buy me a
I
lot
wish
of
I could wear
perks.
jewelry. I used to have some nice jewelry. I can't wear it anymore.
I don't
I
wear
always,
my
I always,
bling.
it always
It's all
catches
in
me
the
on stuff.
safe. I don't wear it.
I always catch, especially my fat ass ring fingers. I always catch things there. I was
Yeah.
like, Lord have mercy, I have no clue what that is. To whoever asked me that earlier, real quick before we go, uh, because you're abducted. Okay, let me rephrase this. Yes, you're special because you're abducted. Now, you're not probably special in the way you think you are, but you are special in the fact that your family was one of the original families way back that was
Right.
abducted. And they've been following the family line ever since. And family lines expand. So they keep following them, even though people get dropped because, it's a dead end, they don't have children, or the children they have are not going to have children or are not part of the program because they're not at the level they need to be. So it varies all over the place. But yes, I mean, you are special because you are a contactee. So in one of these days, they'll
Mm.
tell you why. Uh, I'm reading Amelia's cards later tonight with the cat cards.
I know.
I'm
Okay.
breaking out the cat cards. Yes, I ain't read these cards in 12 years. These evil ass things.
So, with that being said, um, we're going to say goodnight. Before we do so, we're going to basically thank our sponsors, Folgers Coffee. Thank you for being you. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you. Big
Yes, you're
thank you to
even good
Dr.
cold, by
Snick.
the way.
Big thank you to Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker. Remember to tune in to the International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. Those are the network YouTubes. Go and show them some love. Subscribe. Find Amelia and I in the Outer Realm on Facebook. Do the same, please. If you're looking to send us a message, please do so at the Outer Realm contact at gmail.com. That's the outer realm contact at gmail.com. Tomorrow night, we welcome the return of Brad Olson. You guys loved him the first time, you'll love him the second time. He's going to be discussing his second book, Future Esoteric. I have basically been delving into it, and I can assure you it is going to be a fantastic segment. So until then, have yourselves a wonderful day tomorrow, wonderful evening tonight, and we shall check you guys out. Well, you should check us out tomorrow. See you in chat. Behave.
Be good.
Bye, Joe. Thank
Stay
you,
out
Joe.
of trouble.
Bye, bye, bye.
Stay out of trouble. Shh. Shh.